What's going on, everybody? My name is Terminus, and I am back. You might hear me still being a little bit nasally on the voice side, a little bit deeper than you're used to. That's probably because I'm not completely over it yet, but I think this is the first time, like the first day, where I can really feel like I can talk for a couple of hours and not have that many issues. Today we're gonna react to 𝐸𝐴𝐿 no frí Rein episode 22. In case you were not part of the channel before, of course, like and subscribe if you like the videos. Check out my Discord, my Patreon, everything. I would greatly appreciate that. Other than that, a little update to everybody who has been watching my Frieren reactions and everything, and has been kind of subscribed and on the channel and whatnot. I actually have been sick the last couple of days. Before that, I had like a couple of shifts in a row where I was already kind of sick, and then I just like beginning of the week I just lay down in the bed and I was just fucking done. I mean, I was on my PC here and there, but I couldn't have been recording because my throat hurt like a real motherfucker. Like yeah. But I think I'm back to a point where I can actually talk a little bit, and we're gonna get into Frieren. We're gonna talk about the last episode, and we're gonna watch the video, you know the deal. And then we're gonna talk about this episode for as long as I can hold out and have fun and don't have any pain, because this is one of the, like, I think yesterday it was already a little bit the case, but one of the first day where I really do feel like there's nothing or not a lot scratching in there anymore. So yeah, without further ado, let's look into this episode of Frieren 21 that we actually have watched a couple of probably a week ago on Patreon. The rain on the barrier became very, very prominent later on. We meet Flamme and Frieren, who are meeting 𝐸𝐿. Interestingly enough, she didn't found human magic, which I kind of, that was a false attribution on my side. I think I do sometimes have slight lapses in attention where I just misinterpret something that I read, and then after even if I read over it after the fact, it's very hard for me to detect that I was actually reading it wrong in the beginning, because obviously you need to keep I want to keep the flow of conversation going, which is on the one hand very interesting for somebody who's watching, right? Because you're continuously talking, you're keeping people occupied with your thoughts and your theories and all of the conjecture that's going on there. But at the same time, obviously, it's very easy to kind of have these little tiny lapses in attention where you're misinterpreting. I cut that out, or don't. I mean, can't stop saying it weirdly. Anyway, yeah, where you misinterpret something and you are on the wrong way, or maybe even you miss something. Like I had the same thing in Maiden Abyss, no spoilers, but with 𝐏𝐢𝐏, I didn't have her name down for a couple of episodes before I finally found it, right? It was mentioned one time and then not ever again until like a later episode. So yeah, those are the kind of little moments that yeah, nobody's perfect. That's what I want to say. It's very interesting because she came in here and she was like, "Yo, I'm an elf. I have all this fresh knowledge here. Let me give you get some knowledge, and you get some knowledge, and you get some knowledge. Okay, it's found the Human Continental Association of Magic. Let's make an organization out of it. Let's make people strong." And my question to that is, well, first of all, Vincent in one of his comments on 21 actually that I just recently read this morning said she's an archmage, right? He said that about Frieren, but the same goes for 𝐸𝐿, right? Because she's been around for thousands of years. She has all this magical knowledge and probably also the magical skill, because we have seen that she is very interested in fighting other people and testing her mettle against other people. she's looking for challenges, right? And we do see that in her attitude here. She looks bored 90% of the time, but when something interesting happens, she has that devious smile on her face. And it doesn't necessarily have to be her being evil, of course. We'll have the same thing with Übel, and we get into that in just a minute, hopefully, if I can remember that. But I think 𝐸𝐬𝐏 is definitely the kind of person that is looking for a challenge in general, somebody who challenges her, somebody who is giving her something of interest that she hasn't seen before, somebody who has seen so many things in her lifetime that at some point she's gonna become kind of jaded and being like, yeah, you know what, I've seen this, I've seen it all, right? I need somebody to challenge me, to give me something new, something novel that I haven't experienced yet, and that is very hard to come by if you've lived so many years in your life. And then this is where also this discussion of immortality comes in. I think I've had multiple reaction series that I've watched about the Monogatari series. Spoiler, at some point somewhere in the Monogatari series there's a vampire, and the vampire is immortal, right? So the question at some point becomes, why are there not, like, if vampires can actually, right, reproduce themselves like in the classic traditional vampire story thing, where you make yourself minions, right, and then they become vampires. Why are there not vampires everywhere? And the answer, kind of one of the answers was, well, a lot of them just are getting sick of life after a couple of 100 years because they've basically mostly seen it all, right? They don't want that anymore, right? Eternal life can be daunting. I don't sense that from 𝐸𝐏, but it could be something that could be explored on later on, and we do have that theme a little bit in Frieren's case. Frieren loves life, I think, and Frieren does definitely not is not jaded of it, but definitely there is a lot of downsides beyond just losing the people you know and you grew attached to, but also just the fact that you've lived so long. It becomes increasingly difficult to find things that are new to you, right? That are interesting or surprising you. Those are emotions, those are things that we experience, that especially we as human beings, we strive for this, right? Because new things, novel things, things you haven't seen before, they're scary to a degree, right? That is one aspect of it, and we talked about that a lot in Made in Abyss. But also, there is a lot of curiosity going on, and that is kind of ingrained into us as human beings, because curiosity means we are searching and seeking out things that are new and novel to us, because we want to learn more things, and learning is a human, almost I would say a human, a basic human need. Not a need in the sense that you absolutely need it to survive, right? It's not in the hierarchy of needs, it's not on the lower levels, it's more on the higher levels of self-fulfillment. Once you have your food sources, your security, your affectionate attachment, your relationships, right? Then you can build upon that and be like, okay, what makes my life fulfilling? And the part that, like, the tip of the pyramid that makes my life fulfilling is obviously, on the one hand, goals that I have that I want to fulfill, but also the ways to get to these goals, and that is learning new things. And learning new things is part of the fundamental human experience, all the way from learning new things in order to survive, right, to stay alive and reproduce, all the way up to learning new things in order to create new things, to make things better in the long run, right, for the species as a whole. And that is very interesting. Now imagine a species that at some point, right, that maybe even doesn't die, right, technically, that lives thousands of years, maybe even more, like tens of thousands of years technically. What is there to learn at some point? I mean, there's always a little bit something new to learn, but the more concepts you learn, thanks to our amazing capabilities as human beings, obviously these are elves, we can make a slight distinction, but they're pretty much on the functional social level, are they very similar to human beings in terms of how their brain works and how everything works. So we can conceptually transfer things, one concept, onto a new thing that we see that is similar to it, right? It's called assimilation, I think. I think that was assimilation and accommodation. But anyway, assimilation, right? And as a result of that, nothing is really new to us, right? In the way after we've been exposed to a lot of things, and you grow older, and I already see that a lot of people who are older make that experience at some point. Now, obviously, the difference here is you grow older, and especially in the last couple hundred years, like 200, 300 years, technology was skyrocketing. That means that the generation that is growing old now, that's like 60, 70, 80, 90, at this point, a lot of things are new to them, because in the time they grow old and they do their routine life, right? Things explode in terms of technology, in terms of like concepts that work on a technological, on an information level, all of these things. Systems get more complex and more complex. Now, we don't know where this will lead, and I don't want to make this tangent even more of a tangent. But the point is, in the end, there's also aspects of, I've seen this before, I've been through this before, this is nothing new, and I do feel like 𝐸𝐬𝐏 must be experiencing some of that. But yeah, she's not very convinced of Frieren. We see that later on, where she's like, alright, this one's no good, she doesn't want anything, right? She doesn't have that desire, and I fundamentally disagree with that. I think for Frieren, Frieren is just another type of person, and maybe sometimes it needs that type of person to bring about certain changes that other people might not, right? She is 𝐸𝐬𝐏 herself, she's looking for conflict. Now, if you're looking for conflict, even if you don't necessarily want the demons, the bad demons to prevail, even if you have maybe the goal to defeat them eventually, but if you're looking for conflict, what happens once that conflict is gone, right? Can you really reliably live in an era of peace? And wouldn't it subconsciously kind of subliminally influence your decision making that you are seeking conflict rather than peace? But yeah, lots of cool things, lots of interesting things. We had a lot of fighting going on, and a lot of like parallels between the new and the old. Denken being a brilliant mage of his time, reflecting kind of the same attitude that Frieren has, which is being in search for magic is the greatest joy of it all, right? Being out there and being like, oh, there's this new spell I get, or having made a 5-year journey or a 5-year political stunt or whatever, and finally being able to achieve that one thing that you wanted to achieve, rather than just getting it handed to you as a reward for something arbitrary. And there's something in that, right? There's a lot of studies going on in psychology about the I don't know how to call it in English. I don't have it at the top of my mind here, but it's basically a delay in reward, right? Where you test people in terms of if they would rather take the small reward right now, immediately, right? Instant gratification, or in how far they are capable and willing to delay that reward, that immediate reward, in order to get a greater reward later on, and how that influences our functioning, right, and our way to accomplish goals, and our interactions in general, because there's different people that would react differently to that, and there's different outcomes coming from that. Again, it's been a while since I've dug my way into this thematic, but I still remember it as something that impressed me a lot when I first started psychology, like the whole thing about delaying rewards and how it structures our thinking, and how obviously it can be very hard, especially these days with social media and whatnot, where you get constant dopamine rushes by just getting responses and that it influences us a lot if we are somebody who grew up learning that delaying rewards can be even more rewarding. And that is a thing I think a decent amount of people do experience, that they work towards a goal on a long-term basis, and then they reach that goal, and that gratification they get from it is a lot bigger and a lot more long-lasting than it is if they would have immediately given in to instant gratification, right? Also, it's very interesting that we're actually excreting dopamine in expectation of a reward rather than in actual it's not just the reward itself that's giving us the dopamine rushes, but also the expectation of that reward, which is very interesting when it comes to learning psychology and learning mechanisms. But yeah, she offers the knowledge and Frieren declines, and there we have a fundamental disagreement. But Flamm believes in Frieren. She's like, this is the right type of person we need to usher in this, or to maybe not just usher in, but also just be part of and lead this age of peace, right? That she will be a fundamental person during that age of peace, because she's not a person who is then seeking the next conflict, but rather who is seeking ways to maybe develop herself, but also help other peoples around her develop during this time of peace. And just one moment, we'll continue. Yeah, I do really love these expressions from Flamm. We do see a lot of affection towards Frieren, which makes sense. She took her in and they lived together a long time, and she's definitely saw something in Frieren that made her believe in her as a person. And Frieren carries all of that, all of these memories, all of that affection, all of that confidence with her in this specific case. We have the conflict between Lawine, Kanne, and Richter, at least towards the end, effectively trying to kill them because he was getting desperate, saw that Denken lost the thing. And we do have that whole thing about like the complexity of magic, and when it gets to like you don't need more for monsters and whatever. And then people went back to physical attacks. Very interesting what Winston said on this as well, where he was like, yeah, they just switched over to the thing they did before 𝐸𝕓𝕠𝕦�╗ and the more advanced defensive magic was used, because they got into the situation where they were kind of at a deadlock or at a standstill and couldn't develop these magics any further. And then they were like, oh well, if everybody's basically on the same level, now we're going back to what it was before and just using creative ways to get past each other's defenses. Somebody who uses like common normal defensive magic is then being outmaneuvered by using physical magic attack spells and vice versa, right? But the problem is that if you develop backwards in this sense, then you get to a position where you're not mastering the things that you originally were striving to master, right? The pinnacle of what you reached, which is 𝐸𝕓𝕠𝕦𥬗 and the modern defense magic, isn't as relevant anymore, because a lot of those people are using physical defense and physical attack magic. So what's happening is that basically the one who has the better attack magic that breaches the defensive will win, like it was used to be before 𝐸𝕓𝕠𝕦 and all of that. And now they're not developing the common attack and defense magic to their max anymore, which is what Fan and Frieren are actually doing. The cool thing is also that later on, Fan says that Frieren allows her to use any spell she wants outside of combat. So it's a training thing, right? It's like they're training themselves to go at the absolute maximum with these exact common modern spells of offense and defense, because it's very effective against modern mages and also against every other kind of species you could come across. But Frieren at the same time also encourages Fan to be creative outside of combat and learn other things beyond that, which I think is the right way to teach this, right? Because you know it's going to be important down the line, and she did that early on. Oh, oof, that's a big... They were almost beaten, but they didn't give up. At least tried to bluff their way out of it even. And then we have this spectacle. I mean, we looked at it last time. We don't have to look at it again. We have the fire tornado. Very creative use of two different, right? We have wind and fire. It's the classic RPG thing that's also really cool all the time and very impressive looking. We have 𝐸𝐷 and 𝐏𝐢𝐏 talking about all of this stuff. And we have 𝐸𝐷𝐿 being humbled because Frieren is an archmage. Frieren is a great mage. She has thousands of years of experience, more than 𝐸𝐿 does. Obviously, there is a difference not only in the mana capacity, but also in what she knows and what she expects and how she knows it, and the reaction times that come with it. Obviously, elves also don't age, so there's this unfair advantage as well. But yeah, it was him basically being the scholar again, him being the person learning something out of this combat. Although I'm sure Frieren learned her own bit. She's very observant and she can do that very well. Just take something away from every encounter that she has. Now we talked, like Vincent talked a little bit about the names of the people not necessarily represent, like, just representing one aspect of them. Of course they do. Like I mean, maybe I'm too maybe I'm being a little bit too harsh on that front, because for me it's natural, right? It comes natural. It's like, obviously this is just one aspect of them that the author thought was cool to highlight or found interesting, or maybe they highlighted it on purpose in an effort to kind of mislead us in a way to come to certain conclusions that later on will be challenged or will be put a twist on, and some people will get it and others won't. That's obviously also a very interesting aspect about this, which the series plays with a lot. We have the same thing with themes, right? 𝐸𝐿 wants to go to his homeland, but obviously he could have easily hired a first-class mage to do it, or used his political influence to get there somehow. Obviously, there's another motive, and I think last time I theorized as to it, I was like, that can't be the only thing that he's after, right? It makes sense that he wants to do that, but at the same time, I mean, maybe I didn't highlight it like that. Maybe I was like, I wonder if there's more to it, and then the show gave me this explanation and it kind of satisfied me enough to give up on the chase to see if there's even more than that, which props to the show for that, actually, to do that continuously in a lot of things. Yeah, 𝐸𝐷 trying to kill them and Frieren casually shattering reality, and now everybody knows, right? At least everybody who is somebody like 𝐸𝐿 or 𝐏𝐢𝐏 or 𝐸𝐷𝐿, they know, right, that Frieren is that kind of mage, that class of mage, that incredibly experienced and old, and yeah, a class above most of even the first class mages, and you can see that. She's like, this is why I can't quit being a mage. In the world of magic, sometimes the world is turned upside down, and this is what she lives for, right? These special moments where something's happening. And water overwhelms 𝐸𝐷, and yeah, good job. I love it. Last thing we talk about is Übel. I think, yes, people do like to vilify Übel too much, but also because a lot of people, especially in the anime community, have kind of a boner for evil, devious, hot characters, right? That's kind of a thing. People are like, oh yeah, that's what I like. I mean, obviously, if you meet like evil, devious, sadistic, hot character in real life, 90% of the time you wouldn't be very elated, right? This wouldn't be what you dreamed of. But it works as a stereotype, it works as a concept, it works to different degrees for different people who are getting enjoyment out of it from different angles, by the way. From the angle of somebody who likes to be on the receiving end of something maybe on a playful level, somebody who likes to be on the who kind of emphasizes with the position said character is in. But obviously there's more to Übel than just her being a little bit devious, her being a little bit of a troublemaker. She definitely, like I said last time, she can work together with people, she can harmonize with people. She's intelligent, she can prod information out of people without actually having to kill them or having to torture or hurt them or anything. And yeah, I think we will see a lot more of Übel going into the second exam and everything that follows along of that. And I'm very curious to see more characterization on her. Same with Wirbel and 𝐏𝐢𝐏. Interestingly enough, somebody pointed out, rightfully so, that 𝐏𝐢𝐏 couldn't have been the girl that Wirbel made a promise with. Although I have to say, like, as one defending argument for that, I have to say that oftentimes in anime it's very hard to tell ages and to kind of just, because people age in different ways, and like there's also then the difference between species or between locals and whatnot, and oftentimes you're like, okay, this could fit somehow, but obviously it couldn't have been the person, because 𝐏𝐢𝐏 is very young. Wirbel has been defending her since she was a little child, so that when Wirbel was a child, she wasn't even born, right? If you make the calculations correctly. Unless Wirbel was very young at that point, and the way he was designed there is basically the same way he's designed right now, so it couldn't have been that long. But yeah, very interesting, very cool. Again, the exposition with Frieren and her spells, the little joke about the see-through thing, and she's like, no, don't. Yeah, but yeah, they're prodding and figuring each other out. And we learned a lot about each other, right? But also not about these remaining parties that supposedly maybe have actually made their catches. And poor Stark is sitting here, is like, man, it's been like 2-3 days since they've been gone. I'm so happy. And the bartender is, you're right, son, you're right. And then we hear the intro going in, right? You alright? Can you hear me? Yes, I can hear you. Yeah, that's about it. So very, very interesting, very cool episode last time. A lot of action that kind of distracts us from the little subtleties that are actually going on in the story. And I do love all of the subtleties, and I do love coming back to them after reading some comments, after processing it myself, because sometimes I'm like, oh damn, I said this in the post discussion, but actually I wasn't true, or actually there was more to it than that. And that's a cool thing to get into it and just do the pre-discussion and be like, okay, this is some interesting aspect I hadn't looked at, or right. And other than that, obviously there's a recap to kind of just recontextualize and get in and be like, all right, this is what happened last time, let's see what's gonna happen. What I see coming right now in episode 22 is probably it's gonna be a little bit more of a calmer episode. We're gonna meet Stark again and kind of regroup and see what's kind of have a little bit of a teaser of what's going to happen. Maybe you have some interactions with the other groups in between the phase of the exams, and then I would assume that at the end of episode 22 there is a tease as to what the next exam is gonna be and how it's gonna go, and maybe even what the teams are gonna be, and then we're gonna be left hanging again, which is very funny. And I'll probably have to wait until after the weekend to actually record this one. I do hope I get this out by Friday, but it's possible that it goes out Saturday, Sunday, whatever, whenever I do find the time to actually do that. At the latest, probably Monday. I hope it's not gonna be Monday, but it could be Monday. Again, the plan is hopefully to catch up. I'm at 22 right now, as far as I know. We're 25 next, or maybe even this week, 25. So we're going 23 and 24, and then we're 25 and 26, and I should be caught up, which would be cool, because then we're 20. 27, 28, 29, and we're up to date on that, and I can get them out shortly after the episode actually came out. And it's gonna be really, really neat, really hype. Anyway, let's get into the episode, shall we? There's two versions of this. Pip in the description down below, and edited right here if for your convenience. I do hope you enjoy. And here we go. Alright. Frieren. Episode 22 starts in 3, 2, 1. 𝐏𝐢𝐏𝐿 alright, cool. I just read one of them. But yeah, it's fine. We're gonna look back into it, of course. Wonder still who this old man in the intro is. I need to play some role later on. I haven't seen him yet, so the one with the big impressive staff and the white hair and the rain. Oh, I love that it was foreshadowed without us even knowing about it in any way. Like, this is the kind of spoiler that I think is absolutely acceptable, because it's out of context. You don't even know it's a spoiler, and you wouldn't make the connection. Future enemies, or we're looking at who we're gonna go up against next, I think. Oh, and Stork sleeping. He's slacking. He's turning into Frieren. It's Fan, of course it's Fan. Oh, I love that animation, just like from under the bed, super cool. It's 𝐏𝐢𝐏𝐏. Oh no, Mama, I've heard it's gonna be... I mean, that's normal for her. She's catching stray bullets. Tradition. Wow. Ooh, books. Ah, Richter has a little shop. That's cool. He's crafty. Yes. We had that topic with Frieren in episode 17, I think. And Fan. It's nice though, right? Isn't it? They knew you as a child. Obviously, you're still a child in their eyes in some regards. Alright, and here comes the banter. Ooh. Socializing, that's nice. I mean, yeah, this forges a bond to a degree, of course, but it forges a bond. Alright, Lund, what are you doing? Oh, nothing to do here, I guess. Alright.
はじめましてだね。街中ではさすがに分身じゃないんだけどさ、走って逃げたりしたら殺しちゃうかも。
Masking.
一つ
Maybe.
質問いいかな。君ってさ、人を殺すことを何とも思ってないでしょ。
It's an interesting way to word this.
なんでビアベルを殺さなかったの？
見てたんだ。
Interesting that he was watching during that time.
難しい表現なんだけどさ。
そうだ。これは殺す覚悟のための時間だ。
共感しちゃったからかな。
Alright.
私も殺すまでの猶予が欲しくなった。
体が動かない。これは
ソルガニール。見たものを拘束する。
Oh, she learned it from him to a degree?
する魔法は人生や人間性に大きく関わっている。共感できることでその魔法が使えるようになるし。
Oh, a unique skill.
共感できない魔法は使えない。メガネ君、君の分身は本人と同一の機能を持つほどの完璧な複製だ。君は何を思ってどんな人生を歩んできたの？
Alright, so she wants... Interesting. She wants to get to know people in order to learn what they
君って
can do.
感覚で魔法を使うタイプなんだ。その魔法がどんな原理で動いているのかも知らずにそのまま使っちゃうタイプ。
Yeah, okay, we do have a little bit of D&D in there, right? Wizard versus sorcerer.
嫌いなんだよね。
答えになっていないよ。
気に食わないから教えてやんないって言ってるんだよ。
Right, so what you're saying is
別に僕を
make me like you.
いや、いいよ。君という人間が少し分かった気がする。
そう。
もっと知りたいかな。
Alright. Unlikely pair, but here we go.
さあね。ついてくるなよ。
Are they all gonna end up in the same place? It's gonna be very funny.
妻とここを訪れたのは50年。
50 years.
当時の雰囲気のままだ。
These are the best places, right? For generations, it's been the same. I mean, little things change, right? But
電源フリーレンだ。
おすすめはね、誕生日でもないのにこんな贅沢を。
放っておけ。楽しそうではないか。
yeah. Holy shit! What an omelette! What the hell, Frieren? Infern is going for all the sweets.
すごい量だな。
フリーレン様ってたまにこういうことしますよね。
The hell are you doing, Frieren? How is this even gonna fit into you?
家宝の包丁を魔族から取り戻してくださりありがとうございます。この世紀の天才料理人レッカーが最大
Lecker, of course. Delicious. That's... Lecker means delicious.
そうですね。
ここの料理は美味しいからね。たっぷり味わわないとね。
一度にそんなに食べなくてもまた来ればいいじゃないか。
そう思って二度と食べられなくなった味がたくさんあるからね。
くださいフリーレン様。当店の味は後世まで残すつもりです。100年後も200年後も。
At least that's the intent, right?
面白いよね。料理人は皆そう言う。そう言って過去の料理の味を変えて爪痕を残そうとする。
その時はもっと美味しい味を探しに行けばいい。
私を超える味などこの世にありません。
Currently.
ならしっかり未来まで届けるんだ。 それが僕が要求する今回の報酬で。
Always around Frieren. No, not always, but most of the time it's around Frieren. And it's a casual way to do it.
こんなに幸せでいいのでしょうか。
And it does taste the same, does it?
なんだよ。あれだけ
Aww, alright. It's still good though.
もっと美味しい味を探す手間は省けた。あの時よりもずっと美味しい。
Alright. The positive thing. Also, it didn't go past me. It didn't go past me that Stark is ordering the same thing Himmel did.
意外と小食なんだね。
いいだろう別に。
He's a minimalist, right? Pragmatic. Oh, she's happy.
ところでお金は大丈夫なのか？
へそくりなくなっちゃった。
Well, time to earn some dough. Ooh, Stark's learning some martial arts. Alright, fair enough. Do you recognize this guy?
知らない人、なんか修行してると話しかけてくるの。
シュタルクって変な人に好かれるよね。
He wasn't even teaching him, like just...
力を入れたいんだけれども。
Alright. Oh no, no, come on. What the fuck is happening?
悪いじゃねえか。
今日の買い出し当番私だったのに寝坊しちゃったから。
そんなのいつものことだろう。なんで今さら。
フェルンは積もりに積もって爆発するタイプなんだよ。
Not that Elfie.
血を聞いてくれなくなっちゃう。
子供の喧嘩かよ。
お願いだよ、シュタルク。仲裁してよ。私だと話してくれないんだよ。
No. He needs sign. He needs sign.
そうだよね。無茶言ってごめんね。
フェルンさん、本人もこうして反省しているわけですし。
食べたい。
え？
おやつ食べたい。
She wants a bribe.
めんどくせえこの人。じゃあみんなで買いに行こうぜ。
へそくりまだあったかな。
Well, that's your own fault now, isn't it, Frieren?
あれ、あいつ。確か魔法隊の
Übel and 𝐏𝐢𝐏. Are they looking for people for the second exam?
ダメだな、こいつじゃ。
待たせたなあかんね。
Oh.
まして可愛い格好だね、ラビーネ。兄貴たちがデートから帰ってきて毎回余計なもの買ってきやがって。私は着せ替え人形じゃねえぞ。
They're doting on her.
優秀な兄貴たちと比べられるのは地獄だぜ。ほら行くぞ。
Big expectations, huh?
じゃあ今日は私がエスコートするね、ラビーナちゃん。
Alright, I mean, you deserve that. You were trolling her, Loki. Holy shit. That is more bread than Germany has.
フェルンさん、どれにしましょうか。
別にどれでも。シュタルク様。
Oh, he wants to be treated.
しよう。
私に聞かれても困るよ。あれフリーレンじゃねえか。フリーレンにはたくさん助けてもらったんだよ。あとね、先生みたいだった。二人が喧嘩するせいでね。
女の子ばっかりで居心地悪いな。
You don't, Stark. Okay.
お前戦士だろ。
No, not again. Not again. Not again.
お前すごくいいな。なんなの？大陸魔法協会から 農作物を荒らすフレッサーの討伐依頼を受けていて。
Ooh, a job.
先鋭を探していたんだ。こいつお前の仲間か。借りたっていい？
どうぞ。
ひどい。
We're never gonna beat these accusations.
いませんでした。同じ人物とは思えないほどに。仕事でオンオフ切り替えるタイプなんじゃねえの？兄貴たちもそうだ。これお礼ね。お礼なんてもらうようなことしてないよ。いや、フリーレンがいなかったら私たちは第二次試験まで進めなかった。
Actually true. Nice.
ヒンメルはなんで人助けをするの？勇者だからさ。そういうことじゃなくて。
Yeah.
そうだね。もしかしたら自分のためかも。
Maybe.
誰かに少しでも自分のことを覚えていてもらいたいのかもしれない。
Hey, that might be one reason.
生きているということは誰かに知ってもらって覚えていてもらうことだ。
Many people don't even have that insight.
覚えていてもらうためにはどうすればいいんだ？
ほんの少しでいい。誰かの人生を変えてあげればいい。
It's interesting because Frieren asks that as somebody who has learned how to not be remembered, right? From Flum. And now we're in the era of peace and it's different. Maybe she does have that desire to be remembered by people.
フリーレン様、このもらったお菓子、めちゃくちゃ美味しいですよ。やっと機嫌が治った。2日目の朝はなかなか起きなかったな。その話はやめて、また機嫌が。一級試験は例年通りなら第三次試験まである。
Free tests. Alright.
同士だな。そうだね。
Messenger. Is that the second exam information?
なんだろう。次の試験の通知ですね。第二次試験の
Alright, nice.
担当の試験官の名前ですね。試験官は全部
Senza.
ついてねえな。
No, I like Senza.
第一次試験に受かったのに。どういうことですか？前世の担当した試験は過去4回。いずれも合格者は0人だ。
No time to beat the odds, right? We know from last episode that Senza is not an unfair person. At least in some regards. Oh, she's getting chummy. What the hell, dude? Holy shit, the poor bird.
お前すげえな。部の真髄を見たぞ。
𝐏𝐢𝐏 𝐋𝐢𝐬 making friends, nice.
なんてひどい試験内容だ。
そう？私は平和主義者だよ。ゲナウとは違ってね。
Alright, implying that she doesn't want people to die, huh? Might be more difficult though, right? Because there's additional limitations. Oh, I do love this CD. I don't think I'm ever gonna get sick of this, ED. It heals my soul. Literally. Like the symphony. The way it plays into it, like, all of the melodies come together, it's amazing. And then everything. Mimics and gargoyles. Oh god, Mimics. Frieren is gonna die, isn't she? On the inside. Alright, that's about it. That's Frieren episode 22 in the bag. We're gonna talk about it in just a minute on YouTube. I do hope I'll see you there. Hey, we're back. By the way, let me know how you feel the voice level is. Because I tried something new. I reduced the decibel number by a lot in comparison to what I did before. I do wonder if that is kind of reducing the background noise in long term a little bit, or if it makes no difference at all and I could have let it be that way, because in my rendering program, obviously, in my editor, I'm turning down the volume additionally, right? But maybe when I turn it down when recording, it's actually working better to reduce the background noise in general. So I'm testing this out. But let's get back to it. Mage exam. I'm looking through the parties again because this is a thing I didn't 100% have. We had party 1, which is gonna be... Come on, genau. First party. Alright, we have Ton, Methode, and Länge. Well, Länge means length. Ton means sound. It could also mean clay. We'll see which one might be the better interpretation of this. And we have Methode, which is very interesting because it means method, right? It means the way to do specific things. Wonder if there's like some methodical elements to her personality. We'll see that. She's been featured in one of the short town scenes where we got the message of the second part of the exam, and she was holding the bird upside down, which I found very, very unnecessary. But we have our Frieren party. We have party 4 with Van Übel and Land. Interesting how these two have been hooking up, or rather she has been trying to hook up with him some degree. Scharf, Wirbel, and Ehre. They're taking jobs in between. More on that later. Richter, Denken, and Laufen also trying to... It's interesting how all of these parties that have been working together in the first part of the exam, they wouldn't necessarily need to work together anymore, because the way I've understood it, it's probably gonna be a one-on-one, like a battle royale between all of them. Not necessarily battle royale, but you know what I mean. Like, they're all gonna fight each other. Although there might be some caveat to this, because there's a third exam, so I would assume that probably a number of people, like let's say 10 people out of however many they were, I think 16 parties survived. So you have 16 times 3. I'm not good at math, I'm sorry. It's 30, and 3 times 6 is 18. You have 48. Did I do that right? 48 contestants, and out of those, maybe half of them are gonna make it through the second exam, and then the third exam is gonna decide who's gonna go through. Or maybe it's even more. Maybe they're just reducing them to a really small number, and then that small number is gonna see who is gonna become the real first class mage, and it's gonna just be 2 or 3 people. And maybe there is no cutoff, and actually everybody and none can fail technically. But as we hear later, Sensei has probably designed it in a way as to make it very hard to pass. So, and there have been in the past first class mage exams where nobody passed thanks to that. So we'll have to see who actually makes it through. We have Blei, it's very interesting. Oh, what does Blei mean in lead? It means lead in English. We do have Edel, which is I'm just gonna look it up. Yeah, I mean, I was thinking about like metals because we just talked about Blei, but obviously it doesn't have to be that. We have Edel as noble, which makes sense. She also looks kind of like a noble's daughter, which or maybe it's about her personality, right? Right? Maybe she is thinking herself higher than other people, or yeah, we'll have to see how that goes. And we have Dünste. Interesting. Dünste means normally like wafts, right? Something like a waft of a smell, right? Like gaseous substances, right? Interesting. He looks kind of like a poison master, so that might be related to that. It might also just not be at all. This is a shot in the dark, really. But this is all the parties we see. Again, I do really love, first of all, I do love Übel's design. The second thing is this guy. I wonder what he's gonna, like, when he's gonna turn up and what his role is. It's probably gonna be in a flashback, but we'll have to see. kind of connected to Flam, the way I see it. I do love that we see stuff like the rain in the intro. The stuff that we couldn't even remotely tell, even if it was raining and the canopy of the force field was up there, and we focused on that in the beginning of last episode. Even then, we wouldn't be able to tell, like from the intro, seeing like the rain break in and Sansa standing there with her umbrella looking up at the rain, as that meaning that Frieren's gonna break the barrier and the rain is gonna come in. We wouldn't be able to tell even with all of these little hints, because there's crucial material missing that doesn't let us even think of that. Obviously also because there's a lot more going on in the show in general, so you can't cover everything that's gonna happen. But yeah, very cool that these little aspects are in the intro, but they're done in a way that as to not give us like spoilers outright. A lot of intros do that very wrongly, that they just fucking spoil you on a lot of big things that are happening. But in here we see a lot of flashes of things where you can maybe guess at what could be happening, but the constellation of how it's happening, why it's happening, it's very obscure, and I do like that. Alright, Stark is sleeping until noon. No, I feel that. That is a mood. That is like a heavy mood, because honestly, sometimes you don't interact with anybody, there's nothing to do. Normally you're a really busy person and whatnot, and you have that day where you're like, okay, I'm gonna just, I'm gonna relax, I'm gonna do the things I always like wanted to do, right? Do some free time, whatever, and then what you do is just you sleep till noon, because either your body needs it or you just feel in a slump. That's what's happening here with Stark, especially now that Frieren and Fan aren't around. Very, very funny that we actually get this lazing around isn't half bad. What's going on? Wait, actually I want to see this sequence again. This is so cool. I mean, this is clearly him getting dressed, right? He probably didn't have any pants on or something, or maybe he was making his shoes go on properly. Whatever it is, like, it's such a cool sequence. It's just not, because it's not a usual sequence you see, just the observer under the bed, the way the floorboards are very, very detailed, and you just see, and everything else is left to the imagination for you. You don't have to show anything, and it's still a pretty amazing scene because it's so unusual, so novel for us. And then we open up to that face, and we already know what time it is, right? We already know what time it is. Fan is annoyed as fuck. Did you stay up all night? He's like, you were drinking juice at night. Okay, what is it about fucking drinking juice at night? Is it not good for him, or what's the thing about that, right? I mean, I know some people have done like problems with the stomach if they drink like juice or eat something that's very hard to digest very late. But and look at Frieren's face. Holy shit. You only just woke up to it. She's like, I'm catching strays here, please. I guess we have to please Fern. So she's in a good mood again. And then we go over to Richter, who has a really nice shop where he's repairing shit and selling books and all kinds of, like, I see tinctures here, I see little doodads and devices, and so he's very talented on a mechanical level. He's a tinkerer, which I really like. It gives more breadth to who he is. He probably has a little magic doodads and oddities shop here going on, and really gives you that vibe. And we have that little thing about, like, hey, I'm a middle-aged man, I'm not a child anymore, why are you giving me sweets? But that's what grandmas and grandpas do. They've seen grown up, right, since you were like this little, and obviously a part in them will always see that little boy or little girl in you and be like, right? And it's nostalgic for the people too, right? He isn't annoyed, he brushes it off, of course, and points out that it might not be appropriate, but I think he appreciates it anyway on the inside. And then we have that, which is the parallel, right? Denken being around with Laufen, buying her sweets like a grandpa would, and Richter points that out too, right? And she's becoming pretty attached to him, maybe because he reminds her of her father or grandfather or something. She calls him Ji-Jun. I think that's the right way to say it. I'm not quite sure. I'm not sharing. I love that she was like, I'm not sharing. It's like she's a little bit reverting back to a little bit of a younger self of her, like a younger version of herself. And Denken wants to go out eating. Richter's like, we're not a team anymore. What do you mean? We're gonna fight against each other. He's like, come on, dude. Don't be like, socialize a little bit. And yeah, there's people that are like that, and there's people that are like that. I think Denken probably has a lot of that socializing down because he is an Imperial mage, right? He has to keep relations. He has to talk to people. He has to interact with people. He also needs to have that charisma and good rapport with people to actually make that happen, while Richter, maybe as somebody who is more of a just maybe a guy just having a little magic shop and whatever and doing little things for people, he can do the courteous, he can do all of that, but he might be a little bit more introverted on that. And I think it's nice that sometimes you find people, especially if you're introverted a little bit more on your own, you find people that animate you and drag you out sometimes. Obviously, if they do it too much, it becomes annoying, it becomes tedious, but if they don't do it extensively, if they do it just right, you do feel like your life is getting a little bit richer by them just taking you along every once in a while and you having an outing. It's not bad to socialize. Obviously, a lot of people, especially us introverts, we do have a social battery, right? And it runs out pretty quickly, and that's the problem with a lot of introverts, because it's not that they don't want to spend time with people necessarily. The problem is oftentimes spending time with people is very exhausting on like a mental level. I felt that way a lot when I was a teenager. I don't feel that way these days, not as much anymore at least. I don't know if that's because I'm more in tune with myself, who I am, and I'm living that out more, like I'm being more myself even around people, or if that's just the case of adapting to social interactions and just becoming more trained in it, right? Becoming more used to it and just being part of that. Because back in the day when I was a teenager, I really enjoyed hanging out with some of my friends and whatnot, but after half a day of that, I was like, damn, I'm fucking exhausted. I can't do any social interactions anymore for like the next couple of days, or sometimes I'd be like off the grid for 2 weeks because I'm like, sorry, I had to take the time for myself and just be inside and not talk to people and do stuff with people. And that's just how it was. It's not that way at this point anymore, although I have to say I still don't have that many social interactions outside of what I'm doing here on the internet. And I do enjoy the benefits of the internet. I might say that I can interact more with people, a lot of people that I consider good friends, that I really love hanging around with, even if I personally don't have anything to say. Just listen to them talk and have fun and be themselves. I can say I'm very fortunate that I can do these things, right? Just watch a movie with a friend, or play a co-op game with a friend, and we're just or just hanging around in voice chat in Discord and interacting with one another without having that effort of going out and being out there for multiple hours. And just, it's a lot more exhausting to do that than it is to just sit in voice chat and just enjoy each other's company and talk to one another occasionally and all of that jazz. Those are the wonders of modern society. Now there's downsides to that as well, right? The growing distance between people, the problem that we're not as face to face anymore, and that is also something we kind of need to a degree. But yeah. We do have, again, more socializing. Very funny that Land is kind of paying attention to this little lost kitten, and he's like, oh, maybe I have to help it, and then it finds its mother or father, probably mother, very soon, and they just rush off. And that is the moment when Übel appears, a wild Übel appears, and she approaches him and is like, oh, you don't clone yourself in town, interesting. And she's kind of teasing him. She's like, if you try to run away, I might kill you. That's her way to interact with people, right? That's her way to just throw out that I said masking in the reaction because I feel it's a mask she puts on. Obviously, there is a part of herself that likes that, right? Maybe she likes to tease people. Maybe she even likes to hurt people to a degree, right? To a degree. There's a spectrum. You don't have to just like everything that hurts people or don't like it at all. You can be somewhere in between where you're like, okay, I'm enjoying a little bit of teasing and prodding and just being occasionally mean to people, right? Just enough of that, not to completely put them away, but to kind of maybe also hold them to a distance. That's also a way to keep people at a distance, but also poking and prodding at people is a way to gain information. And we saw Übel do that in the exam already, and now she's doing it again here. She's trying to empathize with Land, but she sees that it's not working on him, right? She sees it's not working on him. He's somebody who is very non-responsive, right? Defensive, closed off, and so she's like, well, I don't understand you. He says you don't think anything of killing people, do you? And I don't know how to interpret that, because that's a very peculiar choice of words, especially on the translator's part. I don't know what it originally said. Maybe one of you can tell me. But what I could interpret that as is, on the one hand, you could say, okay, what he's saying here is you don't mind killing people, right? You don't care about it, right? It doesn't touch you that you kill people. What he could also be saying is the opposite of that, is he's like, you don't think killing people is necessary. Because what we've seen throughout the exam is that she doesn't necessarily kill people, right? She's very aggressive, she's very upfront in her supposed sadism, right? The way she acts makes you think that she's like that. It doesn't necessarily have to be the case. She has killed no one, right? She has provoked people, she's been upfront, she's been confrontative. She's never actually, we have never seen her kill people. Rather than that, she's often been stalling for time. So the question I do have on that is, what does that mean, right? What does he point out? Does he point out that she might not care if she kills people, or does he point out that she doesn't really care for killing people if it's not necessary, like 𝐕ebel said in I think the last or the second to last episode here. Yeah, we go on with that, and he's like, why didn't you kill 𝐕ebel? You had the opportunity, didn't you? And maybe he really feels like she doesn't mind killing people, and then he calls into question why she didn't do it with 𝐕ebel. And it's interesting that he was watching, because at the same time when they were fighting, like 𝐕ebel and Übel, interestingly enough, he was fighting with 𝔸𝕗, so I wonder how he could observe that. Obviously his clone was fighting with 𝔸𝕗, but he needed to observe that, right, to learn more about 𝔸𝕗 to defeat him, actually. Excuse me. See, there's that strain coming in now. Those are some very interesting points. But she says she emphasizes with people, right? She emphasized with 𝐕ebel at that point, and she said it made me want to put off the killing blow too, right? Because he was like, right, I do put off the killing blow, I prepare myself for it, but if I actually have to kill people, I will always do it. And I think Übel might be in the exact same position as he is. In that situation when she was fighting 𝐕ebel, she wanted to gather information. She didn't need to kill him. But if she had to kill him out of some circumstance, she actually might have done it. And that's the point, right? And we have this one, and she's like, this is the spell that... Interestingly enough, it's kind of bent a little bit. I do feel like maybe that's kind of an expression of just her adapting the spell without having the exact knowledge of how it works, right? The spell bends a little bit. In 𝐕ebel's case, it was perfectly circular. In those two rows around them, but she says this is how she learns. 𝐸𝐴. She learns by empathizing with people and understanding how they work, and so she can, out of feeling almost, create a spell. And he's like, well, she's like, what's going on in your head? I don't understand. I want to understand you a little bit more so I can replicate your way to copy people. And maybe that's all there is to it. Maybe that's just all she wants to know, right? She wants to know the spell. Or maybe that's right now, in this very moment we're looking at. That's that's her goal. But we do see in just a second here, he's like, you use magic by feel. I don't respect that. I don't like that. And I said it's kind of a little bit like D&D. For anybody who doesn't know, in Dungeons and Dragons, especially in like 5th edition and the more modern kinds, there's there's a lot of different kinds of magic, right? But the 2 different kinds of magic is, in terms of systems, in terms of mechanics, is one class actually has all of the spells of the entire spell book available to them, but they have to prepare them in the beginning of the day. Those are the people who are more studious, right? The classic example of that is the traditional wizard. And the wizard learns and studies, right? Goes to an academy, right? Goes around the world and collects all of these spells and the knowledge about them, and they prepare them every day, like a certain list of them every day to kind of rememorize them and have them at the tip of their tongue so they can actually use them during that day. Now, the sorcerer, which is another class, again, those are 2 5th edition classes. There's other variations everywhere, but those are the prime examples, the best stereotypical examples I can name. The sorcerer would be, in this case, somebody who doesn't use magic by having learned all of the spells, memorize them, right? Memorize their theory, their knowledge, but rather out of feeling, right? They have some kind of innate, implicit connection to the magic fabric of the world and can manipulate it through force of their own will, which the wizard's his main statistic is intelligence, while the sorcerer's main statistic is charisma, the force of one's will. It's very interesting, and this is kind of how I conceptualize it, because for me that's an interesting difference that I didn't know before, that mages in this world actually can, on the one hand, do it more by feeling, right? By understanding in what state of mind other people are and how they work the magic, and others might be able to just learn it by the book, right? Read it in a textbook enough to memorize it, and have it at the tip of their tongue, at the back of their mind, and be able to recite the specific theory of a magic spell and craft it anew every time and all of that. And that is a very interesting distinction. But this little interaction, it tells him something. It tells Übel her something about him. He says, like, dim-witted people. Übel doesn't have to be dim-witted, right? Maybe it's just she has a talent and she uses it the way she's supposed to. I think she's anything but dim-witted, but anyway. Very beautiful shot of her face, by the way. Again, like, I gotta commend the people who draw it. They know what they're doing with the appeal. And she's like, I understand you a little better now, based on what you just said. And she's like, I want to learn more. But like, don't follow me. He's still like, come on, leave me alone. But she's following him. And he's not like being aggressive or putting her away or being like, come on, get the fuck out of my face. But he is more like, alright, don't follow me. I'm kind of giving you the impression I'm annoyed, but maybe I'm not. Right? You don't know. He's very flat in his affect, right? He's very flat in expressing emotions. You can't immediately tell what he's thinking on the inside. And that was one of the reasons why Übel was like, I can't read you. And yeah, we are going into this restaurant. Belle, I don't want to go too long about it. Fan is having guilty feelings about indulging herself. Come on, Fan. Sometimes you just need to rest and reward yourself for having done good work, and you have done good work in your exam. So just enjoy this, okay? I mean, obviously it's taking out some money out of your funds. You're gonna enjoy it, you're gonna relax, and later on you're gonna work to get the funds back. That's just how it works. Stuck's already working on it. It's fine. And here we have a couple of groups meeting, and they're like, oh, things like, let them be, right? We're in a social environment. We don't need to start any shit. And holy fucking shit, Frieren, you're chowing down. This is a lot of fucking steaks. I don't think I could eat that. I don't think I could. I don't know what's happening with your appetite, but you'd be eating for 3 people. Holy shit. Again, it didn't go past me that Stark has been ordering the same, probably roof omelette, that, or maybe a variation of it, that 𝐏𝐢𝐏 has been ordering in Frieren's flashback that we see in a second, and Fan is just gorging herself on that sugar, right? She's going in for the sugar rush. Oh, you go, Fern. You look perfect the way you are. One meal is not gonna destroy you. And the way you act, it's normally you're very, very moderate in your choices, so it's not gonna matter anyway. Yeah. And we flash back a little bit to the heroes party and them having done something for him, and we have 𝐿𝐿𝐏𝐿𝐏, delicious, the chef of the century, as he calls himself. Nobody makes better food. Well, yet. Right? There's always somebody who's gonna be better. But yeah, they're really enjoying themselves. I do like these little scenes. They just flesh out how amazing and enjoyable this journey was for Frieren and also for the other members of the party. And it's always, I said, it's always around Frieren. It's always around Frieren. Because 𝐏𝐢𝐿's like, you better make sure that the food is exactly as delicious as it was back then. That is my wish for you as a reward for doing this for you. And he doesn't do that out of a desire for himself. I mean, obviously he does it for himself to a degree, right? He wants Frieren to be happy, and if Frieren is happy, he's happy. I think that's the thought behind it, right? We talked about it a lot of times. Is altruism actually altruistic, or does it serve our purposes as well? And obviously, across a couple of corners, in terms of functionality and what comes back to us, of course it serves us, and of course it makes us feel good if the people we're close to feel good as well. That is just a social feedback mechanism that is built into us, be that by genetics in part, or be that also in addition to that by how we are raised up. In the end, it serves us if we help others to enjoy themselves more, especially if those others are people we're around often and that we like and that we enjoy being around. Yeah. And Frieren says, well, it tastes different. He lied, but it's more delicious, so at least I don't have to find any tastier flavors. Kind of referencing back what 𝐏𝐢𝐿 said to her, then be like, well, even if it changed, we have to find tastier stuff, and just like, it tastes better. And that's the happy end, right? That's the happy end. And we do have Denken and Laufen. I feel like Denken also has a little bit of like adores Laufen almost like a granddaughter, because it feels that way when you see it like drawn this way right here. Richter's still a little bit distant, but he's enjoying their company passively. Well, yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if the two of them still hang around each other after the exam, just because they like each other as people. Maybe they start to get into some research together, or she takes an apprenticeship at his royal court or whatever. I can see that. And these two, I don't know. I feel like the fans are gonna ship them. Because it's cute and adorable. He doesn't show that much interest, but she tolerates her, right? And she's very interested in him. And they're very different in the way they are. Or are they, right? Or are they? Because obviously you can't immediately tell. But on the surface, they're very different from one another, which is also something that can attract. Also something that can make you interested in another person, be that on a romantic level or be that on just a normal friendship or colleague or whatever level, where you are just trying to learn from the other person because they're so different from you, because they have things that you might want to have that you don't right now. Very interesting how Übel's Übel's ability to learn through empathizing with people is the exact opposite of what her stereotype is that was presented to us when we first met her and as we went along. Seeing those subtle differences is very important, seeing people not just as the one defining characteristic, but rather as an amalgamation of a lot of different things and experiences and personality traits. And I do think Frieren does a really great job at doing that. And Fen is happy, and if Fern is happy, we're happy, or at least we're relieved in the case of Stark and Frieren, who have to be around Fern all the time, and if she's not happy, that's not very pleasant. And we have that old man that I find it kind of funny that he's like just saying, I have nothing more to teach you. And she's like, who was that old man? And Stark's like, I don't know, he's been coming here just fucking talking to me. Yeah. Once again, Frieren needing help with Fan. She's constantly in a bad mood. At some point she's gonna boil over. She's giving them the silent treatment. We see various of the people in town, right? Übel and Schaff are looking for a frontliner who's helping them with a quest, which is cool. We have Lawine, and we find out that she has 3 brothers and they're doting on her like crazy. And we have 𝐏𝐢𝐏 and Lawine going into town. It's the usual, right? This really, I feel she's been trolling a little bit here. She's been like really in your face with like, she's acting very much like I would imagine her like Lawine's brothers act, and that's on purpose, kind of to tick her off or maybe throw her off her game. And then Lawine is like, nope, gotta keep up the dynamic, right? Again, we had that games people play way back in episode whatever 3, 4, 1 of Frieren, all the way in the back. A lot of fucking bread. A lot of bread. I love to see that. I mean, good bread. Honestly, all you Americans, get yourself some good bread, because that white stuff that you get, that you can put it in the trash, honestly. They're like bread that has real amazing ingredients. It tastes amazing even on its own. Yeah, and we meet up and we kind of trot along a little bit. Lawine and 𝐏𝐢𝐏 are very thankful that Frieren has kind of been playing a little bit of a teacher for them, which is very nice. And we have this again, right? Stark being propositioned once again. Well, I mean, obviously for a job again, right? Because he's a warrior. And they've been searching for something like that. So yeah. He's like, do you mind if we kind of borrow him? And she's like, go ahead. And Stark's like, how could you? We're never beating these allegations, aren't we? Fern's just propositioning Stark. She's pimping him out. Yeah. Yeah. Being thankful, right? And we talk about, why do you do these things? And he's like, maybe I'll do it for myself so I'm remembered. And that is one reason, right? There's multiple reasons you can do that for yourself. So it comes back to you eventually, right? So you feel good about yourself, because we are socially trained, most of us, socially trained to feel good about ourselves if we help other people, right? That makes us feel good as well. Especially if these people are close to us, but even if we're helping strangers, it feels good to be praised for helping somebody. To be thanked. But he's also like, maybe I want to be remembered. And she's thinking back on that, right? Maybe I want people to remember me. To live is to be known and remembered by others, right? And you can live beyond your years by being remembered beyond your years. That's a very interesting thing, right? Very interesting stage in life that's been talked about in psychology as well. Like, if you're getting older, I mean, 𝐏𝐢𝐏 is not older here, but he's thinking far ahead. But if you're getting older, you come at that stage of your life where you have learned a lot of stuff, you made a lot of experiences, and regardless of if you had kids or not, there comes like the desire to pass it on to the next generation, to pass on what you've learned so it's not lost, right? So your entire existence is not lost in a way. Be that people remember you, like the general public, right, because you did some scientific achievement, or you invented something, or you made a big company or whatever. Be that that people close to you and in the future generations in your community or within your family remember you. Or be that just as little as that people remember the teachings, that the experiences you made and passed on. That's also something of a solace, right? Because that is you living on in a way, like your existence not having vanished from this planet, which is a thing we have to come to grip with, all of us, right? Our own mortality, the way everything vanishes with time. A thing that Frieren has had a very hard time processing, because it doesn't count as much for herself, because she's very long lived, but it does definitely go for 𝐏𝐢𝐏 and all the people that she's been with. 𝐏𝐢𝐏, 𝐈𝐦𝐩𝐨𝐫, 𝐈𝐦𝐩, 𝔸𝕓𝕠𝕠𝕦𝕥, 𝐹𝐴N, all of the people she met, 𝐹𝐿𝐴M, all the people she influenced and was influenced by. All of these, the memory at some point it rusts away and it changes and it gets swallowed up by time, and the real person they used to be, it doesn't exist anymore in the world as outside of her own memories. Which is a very sad thing, but also an inevitable thing, and we have to think about things to do for us to pass on whatever aspects of ourselves can survive the longest in this world. Change someone's life, even just in a small way. And that's probably enough to be remembered, and we have this scene here, and this is what Frieren is thinking about, and it's absolutely right. And she helped them pass this exam. She taught them a couple of things that were very interesting, opened their eyes and ears to new experiences, to new ways of thinking maybe. And I think that's enough. That's enough you can do for one person, and if you do that to a lot of people you meet, then it's a really nice thing. In 3 days, ruins of the king's tomb. Interesting. It doesn't tell us any details, and the proctor 𝐸𝐧𝐤, who's apparently very... Not a single person passed any of them. That is... I mean, 𝐸𝐧𝐤, you might want to look into your design plans for these exams, right? Maybe they were just like, there's just generations of not very strong. And the next day they're still together. Very interesting, huh? Very interesting. I mean, he tolerates her and she's getting very attached. On the one hand, I'd say maybe she's actually getting attached. The other hand, I would say maybe it could still be a twist of her just playing into a stereotype again, with her just scoping him out because she feels like he's the biggest danger for her, aside maybe from Frieren and 𝐹𝐴N. A little bit of a weaker argument, I would say, because she would have gone to Frieren and 𝐹𝐴N in that case. Although maybe she would have already realized that it was pointless to try to prod information out of them. And make them trust her, because it wouldn't work that well. I mean, he's a very isolated person. He's somewhat reserved. He's very careful. So wiggling him down and gaining his trust might be easier than Frieren and 𝐹𝐴N, but still worth the significant effort to actually do it, because he's dangerous as an illusionist. But it doesn't have to be that calculated, right? It can just be her really having twofold plans, right? On the one hand, she's very interested in the kind of magic he wields and making it her own, and on the other hand, she's very interested maybe now, after having kind of slightly seen what kind of person he is, she's also maybe very interested in the kind of person he is. Yeah, and we have we have these people, 𝐿𝐲 and 𝔸𝕓𝕠𝕦𥬥 and I don't know, Noble. We have 𝐸𝐷𝐻. We have Übel and 𝔸𝕓𝕠𝕦𥬥 making friends with one another. And we have the two lonely proctors, 𝐷𝐷𝐬𝐷 and 𝐏𝐢𝐏. And she says she's a pacifist, which is very interesting. Unlike 𝐏𝐢𝐏, 𝐏𝐢𝐏 was like, whoever dies in this exam, I don't care. It's gonna be a weeding out process. They wouldn't have been able to do first class anyway, which I think is short-sighted. I'm very curious as how to her design of the exam is gonna be. If she calls herself a pacifist and how we can interpret that. Obviously it could be a lot harder because now you have limitations. Maybe you are not allowed to kill people or whatever. And that's gonna be in some cases harder than actually just killing people. And that's the King's Tomb. It looks like a dungeon probably. And kind of the way that the pillars are made and the structures kind of reminds me of that last, or one of the last shots in the intro where we do see like these two legs, and through the legs as like pillars we see Frieren and Fan opposing the person who the legs belong to, as if they're in a standoff in like that big hall. Yeah, and that's about it. Second exam is gonna go on next time, and we're gonna have to see how this is gonna work out. As always, like, subscribe, comment. Definitely comment. I do appreciate every comment I'm seeing. I haven't made comment spotlights mainly because people have been telling me it's not that important that you just point out every single comment. Just mention them in general and talk about the thematic that's going on there, and that's why I've been doing that in that way. If anybody's interested more in like specific comment spotlights, we can do that someday. Other than that, I do really enjoy the way I'm doing things right now, so let me know what you think about that. I'm looking forward to episode 23, probably only gonna come around next week, but I'm hoping that I can do 23 and 24 next week. I also have to record Main Abyss episode 8, because I'm slowly catching up to where I last recorded. Though 𝐸𝐷𝐻 𝐬𝐧 is actually in the pipeline, which is really cool. Gonna come up soonish. See how and when I can actually get it out. Shame that my nah, you know what, never mind, we don't need to talk about that. We can talk about that in another reaction. Check out the Discord, check out the Discord, check out the Patreon. If this is something for you, at the moment it's mainly just for supporting me on a basic level. Obviously you do have your early access, 2 weeks for Maiden Abyss, a couple of days, 2 to 4 days for Frieren most of the time. 1 week for 𝐸𝐷𝐻 𝐬𝐧 whenever it comes out, and then the next week it's gonna be public. And most of the time 𝐸𝐻𝐬𝐧 is gonna be like 2 episodes or 3 episodes in a row, and then we have a longer pause of 2 to 3 weeks. Me to just get back with the recording and whatever. I don't have more time than that, but I'm enjoying it thoroughly, and it's really fun so far. So check that out if that's something for you, and if not, I do hope you tune in on the next Frieren reaction or whatever reaction I'm gonna put up. See you guys soon.